liberty. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to...
And we are back, and hopefully we don't sound completely awful, because...
Oh yeah, this is Because Liberty with Curtis Hart and Chris Bornstead.
This is Because Liberty with Curtis Hart and Chris Bornstead, and we are in the new studio, in the Business Forum Show studios with Kevin Hunter. And thanks to Kevin Hunter, we hopefully don't sound like we did in the last segment of the podcast,
we had
which
some
was
audio issues, you guys.
Audio issues and technical difficulties. So let's try. Yeah, that one was deleted by me because it sounded just like a bunch of garbledy-gook. It sounded much like what you would find if you were to go to the county administration building and pick yourself up a copy of the strategic plan that they have down there. It sounds like a bunch of garbledy-gook.
By the way, I think I saw something in the Daily News about you calling out the strategic plan. Is that what happened, Kevin? Do you want to tell us about that?
Why don't we introduce Kevin for the people
for the second segment, the people that might not have heard during the first segment. We have county commissioner candidate Kevin. For position 2.
Yes, with District 2.
Yeah.
And anybody who has any questions about me and what we're proposing doing here in the campaign, go to my website, citizencommissioner.com. And then also, if you like what you hear there and you want to share and put it out there for other people, well, we also have a printable flyer now that's on the site, so you can just go click on it and print it off. And I've noticed in the last day or so that that's also been shared in social media.
So basically, if you support Kevin Hunter, go to this website, print out 10 of those things, and hand them out to your friends and family members.
Exactly.
Very important. So, get that information out there. Let people know that they have choices this time. We don't have to elect the incumbents. We can go for an outsider. I hate to use the analogy everybody's using. We want an outsider now. You're definitely an outsider, and that's what we support. I've heard some comments about, well, he might not be a good candidate because he doesn't have experience. Well, we don't want experience. We want somebody that thinks like us, that will go in there and look from our perspective, the citizens' perspective, and say, hey, this just isn't good.
I want to address that issue because who you hear that from, you always have to, whenever you get advice or comments made from somebody, you always have to consider the source. And we have political leaders in this community that have made that comment. And so to just share with you something around that, I had a guest here in studio, Wayne Allen Root, which you've seen a little snippet of the interview. There's actually going to be a full broadcast of the 22 and a half minutes that we spent in studio together, visiting about a lot of different issues. And that was one of the questions that I bounced off Wayne: is political experience important? So if somebody wants to see that clip, go to YouTube, search Wayne Allen Root and Kevin Hunter, and the question behind it is political experience important? And what Wayne shares, and I have a lot of respect for the guy, multimillionaire, several times over, owns many, many different businesses out there, and very much in touch with the backbone of the American economy. And Wayne said the last thing you want in office is political experience. And I share with people just in general. We've been talking about, and I see you have a clip of it, so I'll let you go ahead and play the clip.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play this excellent clip by Wayne Allen Root, who was the Libertarian Party vice presidential candidate under Bill Burr in 2008. And like Kevin was saying, he was in the studio last week, and so we'll hear just what exactly he thinks about political experience.
Government never cuts. They never fire anyone. They never cut anyone's salary. They never base it on performance.
Sure.
All of life should be based on performance. You either succeed or you get fired. That's the private sector. That's not government.
So on a national level, we've talked about those issues. At a local level, how do people then take back their counties, take back their states? What do you recommend? Because we're all the issues with taxation and regulation that are mandated from a federal level and come into state level. Yeah. But the fixing of the political environment that we have and the business environment we have also starts from the bottom up. What do you recommend people do at a county level? Because we're seeing the same thing here. We're seeing politicians running the show, telling people that common sense citizens like you and I don't know what we're talking about, right, and we need their experience back in. How do we fix that, and how do we address it?
Well, first of all, you don't want anybody with experience in government, because that means they're losers, or they're cheats, they're liars, they're frauds, and they've experience in ripping you off. So the last thing you want is people who have experience. You know, it's kind of like if I said to you, I have an experience running businesses and they've all failed. Would you want my experience? So, you know, and that's why I laugh when critics of Trump say, oh, he's not so smart, he failed, and they name the 4 businesses he's failed at. Well, I got to tell you something. In business, it's government that makes it easy to fail. Government's the one that makes it so hard to run a business, so easy to fail. Regulations, taxes, Obamacare, climate change are making it hard for any of us to succeed. But a guy like Trump starts 1,000 businesses, 4 of them fail, 996 succeed, and he's worth $10 billion. They're calling him a failure because 4 of them didn't work. That's amazing. But in government, they have experience at stealing the taxpayers' money. You know, when someone says to me, Donald Trump failed, and I go, well, you know what? Let's assume he did. I don't agree that he did. He's worth $10 billion. I don't think he failed too much. But let's assume he failed a few times. We know he did that. At least he failed with his own money. Yes. In government, they fail with our money. See, Barack Obama's failed 1,000 times. No one points that out in the media. He's failed with your money, my money. He's never used his own money, ever. So what kind of talent does it take to be a planning commissioner in Cowlitz County and steal the taxpayers' money and fail with it? The talent is using your own money, taking it out of a mattress or out of the bank account, out of your parents' inheritance, and putting it on the line and risking it and opening a restaurant. That's talent. That's courage. That's what we call in New York chutzpah, right? But to take other people's money that are forced by gunpoint by the IRS and the local tax authorities to pay a tax bill, and then you take their money and you spend it and you lose it, that's my definition of failure. And that's experience we don't need. So we need to elect people who are small business people, who have no experience in government, but who know how to balance a checkbook. That's what we need to elect.
Unfortunately, Wayne, we're out of time, but it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I think we've learned a lot from your expertise, and really appreciate you doing what you're doing on a national level, because folks like yourself holding politicians and people accountable out there is exactly what we need.
Let me tell everyone out there how they can find me and reach me. I've got all my views are on video at root4america.com. Root, R-O-O-T, foramerica.com, because my name is Wayne Root, and that's what I do all day. I root for America, and I fight for America. And my latest book is The Power of Relentless, which you can get Amazon or any fine bookstore. Root for America and The Power of Relentless. And let's hope we can take this country back. The window's this small, but I never lose faith. I'm going to keep fighting till the last bullet and the last man and the last moment and my last voice. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you much. Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. My guest has been Wayne Allen Root. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so that is such a beautiful thing what Wayne Allen Root had to say about politicians with experience. I mean, you can see what politicians with experience gives you, because take a look around. That's what we have. Politicians with experience giving us what we're stuck with.
So you, as not having an experience, actually went into the county commissioners meeting this last Tuesday, if I understand correctly from the Daily News, and you called out the county on their strategic plan. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
First of all, for listeners that are out there right now that might not know what a county strategic plan is, maybe you could most people know what a strategic plan is, but what does the county strategic plan involve, and why is that important, and why did you call them out on it?
Well, let me share with you something. Since I got into broadcasting in 1999, it wasn't long before our whole process of sharing with our business community that we started to recognize the benefit of webinars and video broadcasting. And so we have done a number of these, and my broadcast partners, Dave Ford and Jeff O'Brien, who are out of Minneapolis, St. Paul area, we have launched webinars where we have had multiple businesses from actually all around the world and in different time zones participate in laying out what a strategic plan is. That has happened thousands of times. If I went back through and looked at my records on how many times we have addressed the subject of strategic plan and how many participants we had in those, that number is 5,000 plus. So I've done it a few times. And I've also had a number of businesses over the years who have sent a strategic plan that they're working on to me, asked for advice and input on it.
So this is what you
And
do.
and yeah, it's happened lots of times.
Right.
And I've also myself directly written at least 1,500 strategic plans with businesses, so a lot. And so when I looked at the executive summary that the county currently has, I could tell right away that something very important was missing in this thing. And here, if anybody wonders, how do you write a strategic plan? And Curtis, you mentioned earlier this evening that your wife had even taken a look at it and went through a college class in which they described, how to write a strategic plan.
Yes.
And I could tell you that for somebody who's even just gone through a class, you would already know more about writing a strategic plan than the evidence of what I saw in the executive summary. So I knew something was abundantly true, that the commissioners had failed to write the actual meat and potatoes of what you do first before you write an executive summary. So let me give you an example of just two areas that are actually the hallmark of any strategic plan. Number one, clear goals and objectives. And so you look at a 5-year goal, a 1-year goal, your 90-day goal, and your 30-day goal. And the reason why those goals shrink is you come back because without knowing where you're at every 30 days and knowing where if each 30 days is getting you to your 90 and the 1 and the 5, well, those long-term goals aren't happening at all. So number one, none of that stuff is in the strategic plan. I knew something was really wrong when I saw that. The second piece is KPIs. And for people who don't know what that is, it's a key performance indicator. They are simply measurements that anybody in business would call the key things that they measure to know what success looks like on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis in their business. There are no KPIs whatsoever expressed or outlined or even referred to in the executive summary that we saw. So I knew that they had not done any of this background and that the document, as I read it, read more like a tourism document written by the Chamber of Commerce. And so anyway, I shared that with them and told the commissioners that if you didn't know how to write a strategic plan, you could have Googled it because Forbes writes 13 tips on how to write a strategic plan. And let me read the language because I have this link up here on a page right in front of me. Let me read the language from Forbes as they describe what an executive summary is. They say the executive summary of your strategic plan should be completed last. And this section merely summarizes each of the sections of your plan. So you look at the financial plan, the goals and objectives, the KPIs, the operational plan. All these are things that you put together. So when you think about somebody writing a research paper and the little summary that's in the end, it touches on all the highlights and pieces that are out of that. And I could tell somebody wrote a summary without having done the work, without having done the research. And that's the way it read to me. It was really obvious. Now, here's actually a very humorous kind of side note is there are people in the department that are not fans of what they've seen there in the leadership that we've had there. And privately, Mike Karnofsky admitted his comment was, we maybe went about this wrong and we kind of did this backwards.
Yeah.
So he had acknowledged to others in the department that they had made a mistake in doing what they did. And the sorry part is it took them 3 years to come up with this document.
I think that also says a lot, about things in the atmosphere in our area is that, things going on in the county building. The county commissioners have wondered, where is Chris Morgenstern getting all this information from? Well, it comes from people inside the county building, some of it, and people that are involved in the other place. That tells me that there's people in that building that might not necessarily agree with what's going on right now in our county, but they can't speak out.
Exactly.
So how did they react to you telling them that they messed up?
Karnofsky's response, and the paper touches on it briefly, but Karnofsky's response was that, I spent 37 years in executive experience in an organization, and I know what a strategic plan is. Well, when you look at the results of the work, the answer is clearly no. Anybody who's written a strategic plan would say whoever wrote this has no idea how to write one.
Do you know who wrote this strategic